Hi, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful webinar. I am Arnaud Marcilassi. I'm from France, but I'm very international. I'm the head of international fundraising at Chapel New York. And so again, welcome all to this webinar, International Fundraising for Latin American Organizations. Are you ready? How to get ready? What are the challenges and opportunities? Just one thing before I forget, we have interpreters for this webinar. We have a Spanish one and a Portuguese one. And to get the interpretation, you have to go down the screen, three dots. There's a little thing you can click, interpretation, and then you get interpreters, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. All right. So, like I said, this webinar is specifically for Latin American nonprofit leaders across all sectors: higher education, NGOs, museums, environment, humanitarian organizations, and beyond. We actually, at Chapel New York, we have three great clients in Brazil. One of them is here today. It's Fundação Cabral, one of the leaders business school in Brazil. We also worked with an organization advocating democracy called Renova BR, and also a children's hospital in Salvador de Bahia called Liga Alvaro Bahia. Just a few words about Chapel New York before we begin. Chapel New York is a global group specializing in international philanthropy infrastructure advisory and donor engagement. We help nonprofits raise funds from donors around the world. I actually myself lead a group of 45 fundraising experts around the world, and 15 of them are in the US, and one of them is actually with us today. Actually, two of them, because Karina joined our group of experts not long ago. We have offices and experts across the Americas, Europe, and Asia, and Chapel New York supports organizations to establish fundraising foundations abroad and build lasting relationships with international donors. So this session will feature three outstanding speakers who will share first-hand experience and strategic advice to help your organization grow its global fundraising potential. The first one is Hernan Pablo Nadal, co-founder of Guarani Agency in Buenos Aires and president of AEDROS, Asociación de Ejecutivos en Desarrollo para Organizaciones Sociales. Sorry for my Spanish. Nadia Rampi, executive director of partnership development at Fundação Cabral. In conversation with Stuart Krantz, senior advisor, US fundraising at Chapel New York. And lastly, Karina Isoton, consulting specialist and member of ABCR, the Brazilian Association of Fundraisers. And like I said before, we're very happy because Karina just joined a group of Chapel New York experts around the world. So again, I'm Arnaud Marcilassi, head of international fundraising at Chapel New York. I will moderate this webinar. Each speaker will have about 10 minutes and then 5 minutes for questions. You can ask the question in the little chat, and we will ask the question to the speakers. It will be in English, and again, you have the opportunity to have the translation, interpretation with the little three dots and interpretation or interpreters at the bottom of the screen. So I will ask each of our speakers to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll start the webinar. So Hernan, can you introduce yourself briefly, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Hernan Nadal. I'm based in Argentina. I have an agency called Guarani, and we work with nonprofits mostly in Europe and Latin America. But we have also clients in other parts of the world, like India or the States, but mostly European clients and global organizations. And also I have the hat of president of FAEDROS, that is a fundraising association born in Argentina, but that gathers professionals from different countries in Latin America. And I have been in this sector for 25 years approximately. I have been also part of Greenpeace during a lot of time, leading global campaigns, founding some of the offices of Greenpeace in Latin America too. So um, I have a long background also as an activist beyond my fundraising hat. And in this, do you want to continue right
No,
now,
no,
or
just a short
okay,
introduction, and I'll
that's
give you
it.
the floor later. Thank you, Hernan. Nadia, can you introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, thank you, Arnold and Stuart. It's a pleasure to receive this invitation. I am director at Fundação Dom Cabral, a Brazilian business school located in Minas Gerais state. We have three camps in Brazil, one in Belo Horizonte, the second in Nova Lima. Our main campus is in Nova Lima, and the third in São Paulo. That is our main market in Brazil. To give you an idea of Fundação Dom Cabral's size, we trained the last year 20,000 executives and academic people. We trained the 6,000 social business leaders from Brazil, and we have in our alumni community 30,000 members. So we are one of the big business school all around the world, and I am also leading a fundraising campaign. That is the first time that the institution launch a campaign. So I will have the chance to tell you more about this campaign.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Stuart?
I'm Stuart Krantz. I'm a senior advisor at Chapel in York, and I'm basically been asked to have a conversation with Nadia, who just introduced herself, primarily because I've been working with Nadia for a bit now on launching an important fundraising campaign, and we've developed some very interesting and I think hopefully informative action steps that could be helpful to all of you. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Thank you, Stuart. Karina?
So hi everyone, I'm Karina Isoton. I'm originally from South Brazil, but I have been living in the States for 9 years. And I basically work with both countries. I help Brazilian nonprofits, especially small and medium-sized organizations, as well in the United States. I used to do the same thing when I was living in New York. So now I live in South Carolina, where I help the chapter, as we call here, for small businesses and small-sized nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karina. So we'll start the webinar now with Hernan. So like I said, Hernan, you're the co-founder of Guarani Agency in Buenos Aires, and you're talking with us from Buenos Aires and president of AEDROS, and I want to say it in Spanish again. You have the floor now, Hernan.
Okay, thank you very much. This year I have been in all the Latin American congresses of fundraising. First in the congress in Brazil, organized by our brother organization in Brazil, ABCR, and then I went in the Mexican Fundraising Congress, and then we have our own congress in Argentina, and we have seen similar trends in all the discussions we have in different countries, and it's the same we are perceiving when we work with Latin American organizations in our talks with colleagues. First, what you are talking in Europe and in the International Fundraising Congress about the poly crisis. In our region, the poly crisis is hitting really hard, not only because of the impact of the wars in other regions, but also regarding the environmental collapse, the backlash of the democracies in the region, the increase of hate speech, especially on social networks and the destruction of the traditional journalism. That is also a challenge for NGOs to explain what they are doing. We are seeing a huge increase in inequality. So for us, it's like the perfect storm. And this is added to the structural problems that we have in Latin America, like poverty, access to water, healthcare, housing. There are several type of organizations that we are relying mostly in international cooperation in the region, and they have seen that their access to funding was shrinking, and they are at the same time facing growing challenges like the one I was saying in the past. So for them, it's also they need to spend much more, but they are receiving less, and a lot of them were focusing just in one or two sources of funding. One was the international funding, and the other was the national funds by the governments, and there are several governments in the region that are also decreasing the support to NGOs. So they are in a process of shifting their funding, and at the end they are being pushed to diversify the funding sources, something that we all know, but when you are receiving money from one source, it's difficult to stop doing and start changing. In this process that started first with the pandemic and right now with all the situation, they were forced to change, and they were forced to really enter in a digital era because most of them were not paying attention really to the digital investments. So that is the situation. But there is one more problem that I see not only in the region but globally. That is not the poly crisis, but the way the NGOs respond to that poly crisis. And the most common way to respond is paralysis. They are afraid, they don't know what to do, so they stay quiet. So instead of trying to take bold actions, they are still quiet, complaining or crying because of the situation. And this silence from the civil society, it's very dangerous, not only for the survival of the NGOs, but the most important, to solve the problems that we are facing. So in terms of the fundraising, but also in terms of the way to survive for the organizations, they need to change the narrative. They need to reclaim other type of narrative, and they need to go with stories of hope, dignity, collective action. But we need to stop repeating the same procedures, the same stories. We need to talk about like how women are resisting some of these processes that are moving, how the youth are doing stuff, because the narrative of that the young people are doing nothing, they are just watching TikTok. This is not the reality, and this is something that we have to change since the beginning of the development of the NGOs campaigns, and of course related with the comms and fundraising campaigns. We need to focus on sharing the dreams that we have, and we need to start inspiring people by helping them to understand what is the world that we want. We need to make them understand the other reality is not only possible, but it's needed, and they are the ones that need to be doing that. We need to start talking about us as NGOs, and we need to understand that NGOs are just a tool, and we need to understand that the change makers are the activists, the donors, and that is where we have other opportunity that is related with individual giving. Individual giving is something that most of the NGOs in the region were not doing. There is some countries that have much more experience, like for instance Argentina, that was always in an economical crisis, but has developed very well all the digital channels since like 3 decades, and the individual giving strategies. Of course, that the individual giving programs in the region compared with other developed markets like Europe or States. It's completely different, but it's a lot of place to grow. And there will be a lot of growth in that sense in countries like Mexico, Colombia, of course, Brazil. And there is also big difference between some countries like Mexico or Brazil, where the government have more investment than in other countries. Also, high value individuals are donating much more than in other countries. But anyway, this idea of individual giving is growing, and the organizations are starting to do that. The other thing is that we see fundraising not only as a ATM, it's not just raising money, and we understand that the people, it's part of the change, and donating money is just one part of the change that they can produce. So when we work with our clients and when we try to make them think about individual giving and other type of fundraising, we don't like to talk about lead generation of this kind of terms. We think the people as partners of the organizations, and there is a duty in the organization to think how can they involve audiences to work with them to solve this type of issues, where the fundraising part is only a part of the engagement strategy. The other trend is related with artificial intelligence. When we start working with a client, most of them doesn't have a policy of artificial intelligence. They say there are a lot of them, especially global organizations, say it's not allowed to use artificial intelligence, but all the employees and the volunteers are using it without any control from the organization, and that is even worse. So there is a lot of use of artificial intelligence by people working in nonprofit, but in most of the cases, not the most efficient one or the most secure one in terms of privacy and of the data, of course, and in terms of compliance of the different regulations of the country. And the last trend to mention, and then we can go for question, is video. Everything right now is related with video, and this is another challenge for NGOs, because producing video is much difficult and much more expensive than just producing text in the usual way, where or nonprofits were just used to create a press release, send it to media, and that's it, or just to copy that model and publish it on social networks. There is a shift in that, and a shift in the way the algorithms work, so they need to be much more relevant. There is also a mix with artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is being used to create video, and there will be networks or just of artificial intelligence content, and there will be more spokespeople that will be not human as a way of being, and the organization will start to work in different ways, because if they continue doing the same, they will be completely irrelevant, and this is what is happening right now.
All right, thanks a lot, Hernan. We're not talking politics here. We're talking about fundraising and philanthropy and international fundraising. But we all know about the story in Argentina with the government cutting fundings and the chainsaw and all that stuff. And I was wondering, because we've talked to a few organizations in Argentina, mostly higher education, and some are great organizations like Universidad Austral. They could absolutely go international and raise funds internationally with great projects or great alumni around the world. But there seems to be a little shyness, to go outside and reach out and to some potential donors outside of Argentina, internationally, US, Europe, whatever, Asia. Why do you think there's this shyness, and do you agree?
Well, it depends in which type of institutions. For instance, right now, even the public university, in Argentina, public universities are free. You can go for free, you don't pay. But they have never did fundraising in the past. So this is the first time where they are going for fundraising strategies. they started, of course, with projects, so like for science or for new buildings, this type of things that are easier to explain, but they are just starting. And in terms of fundraising for universities, in Argentina, there are several private universities that they are non-profits, but in the private sector, that have done a very good job in terms of fundraising, like Universidad Católica in Córdoba, or there are many others that have expertise in that. But it's just starting, they are in a starting point, not even similar to any small university in Europe. So there is a lot of develop on that. As you mentioned, but not only in Argentina, the restrictions from the public funds are making them go very innovative, not because they are innovative. In fact, they are, most of them, very traditional, very conservative, but they have to do it because there is no more money. So for instance, some public university can pay electricity bills. So that is the level of the problem in Argentina. But what I'm saying is beyond Argentina and the trends that are being repeated all over the region. And I think there are several opportunities. One is that type of funding and the type of campaigns. The other is what is happening, what new source of funding, like the Gulf countries or Chinese cooperation, that most of the NGOs in Latin America, even the ones that are used to international cooperation, doesn't know anything about this type of founders. They don't know the program officers from those countries. So there is a lot to learn in this region for this news of funding, because they were very used to go to European Union or to USAID, and that was the most traditional thing. There are also some experience with Canada, because Canada has done a lot in the region. But so I think there is also a big opportunity in terms of international cooperation with that, and of course to teach the other organizations what they have. What you were mentioning, that's a huge opportunity, but they haven't go for that. For instance, when Latin American NGOs wants to target Latin American people, for instance, in the States, they are not very effective in terms of doing that. They think that maybe if you are Argentinian or Brazilian and you live in the States, you will give to an organization, country, and probably they will give to other organization in the States. So from my side as an agency, I need to explain that they are not competing just with the organization from their own country, but they are competing in the market with several causes, because the donor doesn't care in some cases where the help is going, or what, except for some political issues, but in the rest. So for instance, if you are in the States and you see that with $10 you can help 200 kids in Nigeria or one kid in Argentina, probably you will say, okay, it's much more effective to put it there. So you need to understand that mindset in some donors when you are going to approach them with your proposal.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And I totally agree. There is one question, but it's for all of you guys speakers, so I'll ask it at the end of the webinar. There's one person, Cecilia Sole, who says she completely agrees with you, Hernan. When in crisis, the ones who survive are the ones that innovate and accelerate. And I agree with her too. Thank you, Hernan. Now we're gonna go with Nadia Rampi and Stuart Kranz. Nadia, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. We've been working with you and your wonderful team at Fundación Don Cabral for more than a year now. I was with Stuart in Belo Horizonte and in Sao Paulo, and I really enjoyed working with you, and I still do. Stuart still work with you intensively, and that's why I've asked him to have this little interview with you for the webinar. So Nadia, you're the Executive Director of Partnership Development, Fundação Dom Cabral, and Stuart is our Senior Advisor, US Fundraising. And you guys have the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnaud. It's a real pleasure to be here to speak with Nadia and hopefully share. Nadia, you can share with me some wonderful experiences that you've had recently. And I think it's terrific that we're following Hernan's comments, because I think what Hernan really encapsulates is how critical it is, if you are going to expand your fundraising operations both internally and then globally, to have a really compelling case. And not just a compelling case, but really a clear understanding of why philanthropy and why fundraising is so important to solve problems. So Nadia, I wondered if you could share a little bit about why FDC wanted to launch a campaign, and the role that you feel that increasing philanthropy and private dollars is going to have now and going forward. Maybe you could share a little bit of the thinking between you and your colleagues on that question.
Yes, thank you, Stuart. I would like to start with a storytelling. I was attending an ABCR seminar in Brazil, and fortunately, I get to know that there was a representative of Chapel New York there. I talked to her, and in 1 week, I was talking with Arnold and Stuart. So I was chosen by FDC to be the leader of the fundraising campaign. I think that there is a very interesting thing about the person that will lead the campaign. I have been working at Fundação Dom Cabral for more than 3 decades. I know the institution, I know the principles, the values, and I was invited not only to lead in this campaign, but also to restructure the fundraising area department. So when I decided to accept this challenge, I talked with our dean that it was very important to have an institution with an international experience, because our donors, they are in everywhere. So we have donors in Brazil, we have donors around the world. But it was very important to train the team to start the campaign in the beginning. So we draw up with Stuart and Arnold a strategic plan for our campaign. So this strategic plan is to help Fundação Dom Cabral to continue being the leading school in Brazil. And of course, we have more than 24 partnerships around the world. Fundação Dom Cabral is one of the best business schools, such as per the ranking of Financial Times. We have been leading this market in Brazil, but it's necessary to have to generate more knowledge, to have more methodologies. So we have many challenges when we see to the school, but we have many other challenges when we see to the Brazil culture. Now we don't have a culture of donation, and we have during this work 2 challenges. One challenge was to convince the leaders of Fundação Dom Cabral that a fundraising campaign was very important to the school. And another challenge was to structure the campaign, to start from the beginning. The beginning, as I say, is what is the objective of this campaign? What will we do with the resources of the campaign? How will we define the phases? Not to launch the campaign in the first part of the work. We decided to do a silent campaign, and we are in this phase. But what I have to say that we are very well succeeded in this result. We have raised 10% of the goals. We start to work with Chapel New York in 2023, and we launched our campaign in a silent phase in 2024. So 10% of $50 million, it's a very important amount for our institution in Brazil. We have alumni community of 30,000 members, but it's not the same culture that the alumni outside Brazil have. And we started cultivating this relationship with our community alumni in another way, changing the results of the campaign, what we would do with the money, but also come back to the past. Fundação Dom Cabral has a history of almost 50 years in Brazil. How much we have done for the companies, the leaders, and the social civil institutions. So first we have to do what we did, and after we will ask, we will solicit for the support. I think that this was very important. The support of Chapel and the experts was very important for us to understand this. I think that's why we are being well succeed, but we can't forget that we have a long trajectory to achieve until the end of the campaign.
Oh, that's excellent description, Nadia, of much of our work. Something Hernan mentioned before you made me think about another question for you, and that is the question of transactional philanthropy versus emotional philanthropy. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about our work together on this. And what I mean by that is, I think in the past, FDC has fundraised transactionally, which means, you go and you ask for a gift, but it could be relatively small gifts. And maybe many people on this webinar also has some experience with raising support transactionally. Maybe you put a request, a page on the website. Maybe you have a campaign where at the end of the year, you ask for money. I know FDC did this and does this. And one of the things that FDC wanted to do, and we helped somewhat, is to move more into a kind of a relationship-based approach to fundraising, that you might be able to tap into the emotions of the donors and ask for larger gifts because they care deeply about what FDC is doing and what it wants to do in the future. I wondered if you could share a little bit of experience that you've had in this past year in transitioning a little bit to a more emotional-based approach.
Okay, Stuart. Fundação Dom Cabral, as all institutions probably that is here, we have a site, we have donations that we here called middle donors. We have more than 400 middle donors. But what Stuart is saying, that to receive the great amount, we needed to draw up a case. And in this case, we could show how Fundação Dom Cabral has delivered to society. And we have a relation with these major donors for such a long time. For example, we have an international council at Fundação Dom Cabral with members of all parts of the world, China, India, US, Europe, and it was very important for Fundação Dom Cabral to show how was important our work, not only to Brazil, but for the world. When we say about sustainability, what Fundação Dom Cabral is doing, the research is not only from Brazil, it's from the world. And here in Brazil, we could show for our prospects that the institution has executive education, academic education, but we have a social education. We have educational solutions for NGOs, for entrepreneurs, for people that couldn't pay for their capacitation in our country. We have a very different perspective in Brazil when we talk about education. It's difficult for people to access quality education. So Fundação Dom Cabral has a scholarship program for more than 20 years. We have put in the companies people that were our scholars and now is leading an important institutions in Brazil. So when we go to do the solicitation, first we have to show the benefits of the school, and we need to cultivate this relationship with the donor for such a long time. It's necessary to get to know better our institution. And I think, Stuart, that there is one point very important, the how this institution is seen in his country. I am talking about compliance. I am talking about recognition of the job that the institution deliver for society.
Oh, that's a topic probably for a whole nother webinar in terms of how one is perceived both internally and externally. I know we just have another minute or two. Nadia, I'm wondering if you've learned anything this past year in working so closely together with Chapel in York that you think could be helpful to the audience of many other nonprofits who are on the call. Most are probably not really of the size or history as FDC, but are looking for specific strategies, specific ways to either start or expand their fundraising. Do you have any final words that you think might be helpful for them as they continue to try to grow their private fundraising efforts?
Yes, Stuart, I think that the strategic plan for fundraising, it will drawn up according to of the size of the institution. I think that our plan has the size of Fundação Dom Cabral. But one thing that became on my mind since the first day, since the very beginning when we started talking with you and with Arnold, was that we understood that it wasn't a 100-meter sprint, but a marathon, a campaign. Now, Fundação Dom Cabral has a fundraiser not only as a project, as an initiative, but as a process. Of course, if we finish this campaign in 5 years, the school is ready to start another one. Now, to me, this is a process. I think that's the most important thing. And we count very much with the support of Chapel in York. We change our mind. And I would like to have the opportunity to thank both of you very much. And of course, we will continue working for more some time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for all that wisdom. It's great. Just as someone who's worked with you as a consultant, it's wonderful to see Chapel in York, FDC, take the information that is shared with them and really want to implement it on the ground in ways that represent best practices, both in Brazil and beyond. So back to you, Arno.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you so much, Nadia. It was great
Thank
to
you.
hear you. Great presentation, great interview, Stuart. I miss you, Nadia. I miss the beautiful campus in your background in Belo Horizonte.
It's on my back.
Yeah. And actually, I might visit Sao Paulo with my president, Nancy Bixon, in February. She's almost convinced. So we'll obviously meet you when we go to Sao Paulo, and maybe we'll go to Belo Horizonte too. So it was great listening to you. Thank you very much. Now we move to Karina. Karina Isoton, consulting specialist and member of ABCR, the Brazilian Association of Fundraisers. Karina is based in the United States, and she's been helping a few Brazilian organizations to raise funds in the US, and she will share her expertise and experience with us. Thank you, Karina. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to say thank you to Fernando for introducing me to Arnaud. And Arnaud, thank you for having me here today. The last couple of weeks have been very hard for me because I said, how am I going to share almost 10 years in the United States in 10 minutes? This was a big challenge for myself, but I appreciate Hernan and Nadia because you brought up a very important topic that I'm pretty sure is going to make a huge difference in what I'm about to share here. When I moved to the States, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you all my own experience, and I think this can help you with what you do in Brazil. First of all, when I moved to the States, I had no idea what I will see ahead to me. And a couple of years later, I realized that Brazil and United States are two completely different philanthropy markets. So then I thought, like, we tend to invest a lot of our energy and time doing the hardest part of everything in our lives. And with philanthropy, it's not different. So what I see that working for small nonprofits and small businesses in the United States as a mentor, I do the same in Brazil. I decided to work more with small and medium-sized nonprofits in Brazil because in my mind and my experience, I think they can learn a lot from each other. As I mentioned before, United States is the largest philanthropy market in the world. So this is a big business. And usually Brazilian nonprofit, they don't see themselves as businesses. Because of, I know Arnaud said that we will not talk about politics, but it has a lot to do with politics in Brazil. Because the main source of funds for nonprofits in Brazil comes from the federal government. We have a lot of things back to our history that is still part of Brazilian philanthropy. So we don't have a big culture, as Nadia just mentioned. We don't have a big culture of donations, especially when it comes from corporations and individuals. If you come to me and you said, oh, but last year we raised $500,000, which is going to be maybe $100,000. But this is not something that happens frequently, constantly. So it's not part of our culture. So when it comes to Brazilian nonprofits and when they look for help to raise funds in the United States, I keep telling them, I think you are investing too much energy trying to think only about raising funds, like Hernan said during his speech. I think the raising part is the final product of the basics that you have learned, first of all. So what I'm trying to say about that, when I'm doing mentorship here in the States, most of the small nonprofits, they ask me for help to build or at least to fix their business plan. I never heard that from Brazilian small businesses. So this is one big difference. And this is directly connected to the system we live in. So the second thing is, when you submit a proposal to the United States organizations, foundations, corporations, because we have multiple sources of funds here compared to Brazil, we have a big lack of data sources in Brazil. But then people ask me, Karina, we are a small nonprofit. We don't have all those information that you are asking for. But first of all, this is not me. This is all the big donors here. So one thing that I keep saying is when you decided to open your mind, to dive deep in this big ocean that is not your comfort zone anymore, which means Brazil, and now you are moving to the United States, you have to understand culturally how things work. So it's a completely different market. So when you write a proposal, you need to storytell very well what you do. Secondly, you need data sources to explain what you are doing, results of your programs, and also later on, I have seen like most of the donors, they ask if is it possible to scale your project, and we don't have all those information. So basically, what I see is the big challenge, the big opportunity in the United States is navigating new markets, right? But at the same time, we have to understand the basics. What are the basics? Everything that comes first, then raise funds. And the challenges for Brazilians, which is the same challenge for the US nonprofits, but even more for Brazilians because this is not our environment, especially when it comes to small and medium-sized nonprofits. You can compare what a big nonprofit does with the small ones. And the small ones are the largest number in Brazil. So there is something going on. There's nothing being done for them to help them. That's why they need more help, more support for professionals to build at least that business plan. And so one of the biggest challenge is that most of nonprofits that contact me, when they send me their projects, most of them share PowerPoints, different ways to submit proposals because this is the way they have been doing. So when I explain to them what they have to do, that this is a different market, that this is a different requests are made for them, some of them, they feel like they are not ready to raise funds abroad anymore because they get frustrated. So the thing is, writing a proposal is not something easy, especially when you raise funds in the United States. And for you to write a proposal, you have to understand exactly what your nonprofit is doing. Why I decided to focus in small nonprofits? Because I see they have a lot to do. They have been done a lot, but they don't have the same strategies that other sized organizations. So I see that there is a big market there to help them. We have great professionals that can help them to build from the basics and then walk through the raising part of the process. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that try to learn the first steps first. Like we say here, try the baby steps first. And then you build something more solid to raise funds abroad. And that's why we have professionals there to help you too. And as you have only one main source in Brazil, I know that can sometimes block your way to raise funds abroad. So it's a whole process that you have to get yourself more well educated about it, as is not part of our culture. And also as because Brazilian nonprofits don't see themselves as a business. And once you see yourself as a business, you're going to open your mind even more to understand how the US market works. So this is what basically I try to summarize here, that it's very important to start from the beginning. And the beginning is forget you are raising funds in Brazil once you decided to raise funds abroad. It's a completely different market. It's a completely different mindset. And invest more in data sources. There's no data source, especially as we take as an example, the largest number of small nonprofits in Brazil. So I believe this is what I would like to share. There are so much more to talk about it, but as Stuart just mentioned, I think we need another webinar, and then we can be more go through all the technical parts of raising funds abroad.
Thank you so much, Karina. Laura, can we get rid of the slides so we can see Karina's beautiful face again? Thank you very much. There's a question in the chat, and Karina, maybe you can answer it with the view from the US. Someone says the organization I work for focuses on girls and women, and we are still small. Which organization currently serves as a reference in this field?
This is another thing. Good question, Anna. Thank you. This is another thing. When I receive proposals from Brazil to read them and see the main bullet points, I figured out that most of our projects, they have a big number. Oh, we want to raise like $1 million. We want to raise like $500,000. And at the end of this analysis, you see that one project can be spread into 3 different ones. So it was going to increase chances to raise funds abroad. So to give you an answer, a specific answer about this question, yes, there are funds for all kinds of nonprofits here. But like I had to read your proposal to make sure that you can submit one only, or if you have more opportunities based on one proposal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question. Maybe it's for you, Stuart, but it's for all of you. One of the participants says, "How do you guys see the perspective of Chinese philanthropy investment in LATAM for the next years?"
Sorry to chuckle. Boy, I'd have to only be able to provide some thoughts from about 30,000 feet up looking down. And probably answer it this way. If you're an organization and you're looking to broaden your international prospect list of large donors, of major gift donors, I would start with the tip of the pyramid. I would start with those prospects that have already some sort of very inclination and capacity to give to your organization. And if somebody is in China, my work in China, it was very challenging to fundraise there. We did for both a client and then an organization I worked for, but it was very difficult because of the communication issues, the ability to share information quickly with them about how their gifts would make a difference, etc. I see the prospect of China in Latin America. I'm going to follow with something Nadia just said. It's going to be a marathon. So I would plan on investing significantly if you choose to go that route. Plan for a longer term play than a short term play.
Thank you very much. All right, we're at the end of our wonderful webinar. It's been great. Thank you, Hernan. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Karina. We'll probably do another one because there's so much things to discuss, and maybe another one soon. And Nadia, I'll see you in Sao Paulo, I hope, in February. And
Yes.
my best wishes for the campaign. And thank you, everyone, for participating. If you need support with fundraising, you have my email address and the chat. I'll be happy to talk to you or follow up with you. Thank you very much. Have a great day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.